Hello and welcome to a Team Moray Robotics video. This time I won't be talking about my own robots, but I'll be going over some other robots. NHRL is probably the biggest and most popular robot combat event in the world right now, and if you clicked on this video, you probably know how it works, so I won't explain it too much, but every event is streamed and the stream quality is the best you're ever going to see for a combat robot event. Basically, there are qualifying events throughout the year, and the top 4 finishing robots at every event in each weight class qualify for the World Championships at the end of the year to win the Golden Brett. This year, the World Championship is on December 6th, and there are 84 robots qualified, so I'm going to go through each weight class and rank all 28 robots based on how likely I think they are to win the Golden Brett. Before I start, just because certain robots will be at the bottom of the list doesn't mean I dislike them or they aren't good robots. I just think they're less likely to win. Nothing against any of these robots or builders, these are only my predictions. Also, I do watch every stream in its entirety, but I haven't seen every single fight from all of these robots, so I'll just be going off what I have seen, which should be a pretty good representation of what they're like. Lastly, even if a certain robot has beaten a certain other robot, that doesn't mean it won't be ranked lower than them, because this is based on how well I think a bot will do overall at the event against everyone, not against every robot individually. Let's start with the 30-pound class. At number 28, the robot I think is least likely to win it all is Alan. It's just so long and it couldn't drive very well the last time we saw it, and it's only been there once, and the design just isn't very optimized for the weight class. 27 is Jump Rope. This is a really fun robot and I hope it does well, but it is very much not a traditional competitive robot and it has no fork setup. Its arms also get ripped off really easily. 26, Kratos. A robot that could be great if it was reliable, but the weapon always seems to die with that custom motor. 25, Floor Letter Word. It used to be very successful as litter box, but it's been a while since it's had success and it's pretty unreliable now. 24, Mach-a-Bot. A robot that's very recent and hasn't had time to get much experience, so we haven't seen too much of it, and from what we have seen, it's been a bit of a mixed bag. If it's been improved, it could do really well though. 23, Spartan 30. Another very recent robot with very few fights, and I think pretty much the same way I do about Mach-a-Bot. 22, Emperor. It hits ridiculously hard and has an absurd amount of reach, but it's also pretty unreliable. 21, Overlord. The 2 Bot Bears robots in a row. Very similar comments as Emperor, except instead of being unreliable, it just doesn't seem the most durable. 20, Kill Switch. All around a very solid robot, just not as good as the robots above it, and it's relatively inexperienced. 19, Anxiety. A more experienced robot, but I feel like it catches fire a lot, and it isn't as consistent as a lot of other bots here. 18, Goose. Another solid, pretty standard design that has some success, but not nearly as much as robots higher on the list. 17, Jubilee. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. The most recent Golden Dumpster winner in the weight class. I don't think it looked the best, but it is a classic, proven design that has been very successful in the past. 16, Termigator. Maybe a little surprising to have it higher than some robots on this list, but I think the wide Manta-type drum design is really effective, and it always seems to be somewhat of a threat. 15, Kablooey Tango. It almost certainly would have been higher if it didn't have a long break from NHRL, and it only got 2 fights at its qualifying event this year, one of which was a pretty clear loss, but it looks like it still has some of what made it so great a few years ago. 14, Vorion. A very experienced robot that can either be great or have a bunch of issues. It's always a serious threat, but it's unreliable so often. 13, Phenomenon. Brandon Bennett Young's original robot in this style. It's very similar to Vorion, but I only put it higher because it's been around for longer, so I feel like it might be a little more likely to have better reliability. 12, Undertaker. A shockingly powerful newcomer robot from this year that really came out of nowhere. It hits crazy hard and already made a bit of a name for itself, but the robots higher on this list have been around longer and have performed very highly many times. 11, Synthesis 30. Another robot that has a history of being inconsistent. In fact, it still has more losses than it has wins, but it hits very hard and it's definitely more reliable lately. And the main reason it's as high as it is the deep run it had at last year's finals, especially beating Emulsifier. 10, Waddles. It's a classic, consistent robot that always goes far, but I do feel like it might be at least a little bit outdated now. 9, Colossal Avian. The long forks do so much for this robot, and it seems like it's always a tough battle for any opponent, It can do some serious damage, though the arm seems to die a decent amount, which leaves it in a pretty bad situation. 8. Little Lash. It's hardly had any fights in NHRL, but I've seen it dominate in multiple other events, and it looks super reliable. It's like a perfect scale replica of Whiplash with the amount of control and durability it has. 7. Dead Rise. A robot that I think debuted at Motorama this year. It already proved itself with how crazy powerful its spinner is, and it's a little bit like Moray, so maybe I'm biased, but it's really a great robot. 6. Megatron. Somehow even number 6 feels low for Megatron, which just shows how great this robot usually is, but the newest version keeps having drive issues. If Jameson could figure that out, it would be even higher, but it's still really great. 5. Red Storm. My favorite 30-pounder. Almost every fight I think, oh, this might be a bad matchup for it, but nearly every time Red Storm pulls out the win. It always looks like it's been through a war and it's about to fall apart, but somehow it's basically invincible in its fights. With the amazing drive, the forks, and the durability, it's always a huge threat to anyone it battles. 4. Emulsifier. I don't think I really need to explain why this robot's so high, and the only reason it's not number 1 is because 2 of the robots above it have beat it this year, and the other one is hard to imagine losing any fight. 3. Ares. One of this year's most consistently great 30-pounders. Ares hits really hard and keeps hitting hard until the opponent just can't do anything anymore. 2. Chonkiv. It's really hard to imagine this robot losing a fight anymore. It genuinely feels unbeatable to me and makes me question the shuffler weight bonus a little bit, but there is one robot that I think might be able to reliably stop its shell from spinning. Number 1, Kazaa Light, a control bot at the top spot. They have been so reliable this year, and I think if anyone could stop Chonky from spinning, it's a multi-bot, where one half can take a hit and slow the shell a little bit, and then the other one could come in and fully stop it after the shell's been slowed down already from the first impact. They've already shown that they can beat Ares and Emulsifier, so Kazaa Light is my prediction to win the 30-pound weight class. Alright, let's move on to the 12-pounders. 28. Melodious. The least likely to win the Golden Brett in my opinion. Its only 2 wins were due to robots getting stuck, and it's only had 3 fights in total. 27. Minen and Plusle. I think they're just going to get kicked around by everyone higher on the list. 26. Synthesis 12. It's just too inexperienced at NHRL to put it any higher, but if it works properly, it has a lot of potential. 25. The Invisible Hand. A weird design where the drum sticks out really far. It looks decent, but I don't remember it being particularly reliable, and the design looks like it might lend itself to getting torn up easily. 24. RoboCat. It can hit hard, but the overall shape of the robot isn't traditionally very good against all of the best robots that have qualified. 23. Battletots. I really want Battletots to go far, but against robots this good, I think they're going to struggle, and they have a hard time getting good hits sometimes. 22. Boldon. From what we've seen so far, it looks very good, but it's brand new to NHRL and hasn't really proved itself as a consistent contender yet. 21. Adamant Barrage. It has plenty of issues, but the design makes it a legitimate threat to a lot of smaller robots with less reach, and it can hit pretty hard. 20. Steggy. A very solid robot, but I feel like it's either a good Son of Cram or a good Buzzkill, and can't remember it ever going much farther beyond that. 19. Budget Boy. A robot that most people are probably sleeping on. I have high hopes for it, and I remember it being very impressive at the last event it was at. It's a durable and effective control bot. 18. Cherry. Too new to put particularly high, but it's a good design, and it's never lost a fight after 6 battles. 17. Sievert. Not the most durable thing in the world, but it can deliver some really big hits. 16. Huge. A former Golden Brett winner. Maybe it should be higher on the list, but I don't think it hits as hard anymore. And with the quality of the robots these days, it probably should be hitting a bit harder. 15. Xenomorph. I have a lot to say about this one. First of all, I was going to name my Beetleweight Xenomorph. I even made a face hugger mask. Second of all, this is another very new robot with only a couple of fights, but it's made it pretty clear that it is actually a huge threat. I think Zach Knight said the most damage Prabheta has ever taken is from Xenomorph, and geometry-wise, it's set up so well to take on pretty much every vertical spinner. The problem is that it doesn't have a good answer to horizontals. Also, it looks like Moray, so I like it. 14. Grim Ripper. Another one of my favorites. It's one of the most consistent robots where it's always great, but never quite the best. 13. Toro Jr. It looks unkillable and it's a very classic design, but the weapon doesn't always seem to last if the fight goes long. 12. Carmen. A truly classic NHRL robot. It hits crazy hard and drives really well, but recently it hasn't been the most reliable, but I think it did win Motorama earlier this year. 11. Caldera 12. Usually it's great, but it constantly gets stuck either on the kick plate or in the kick plate, so as long as it doesn't get stuck, it's a big threat. 10. Son of Cram. One of the oldest robots here, I'm pretty sure. It still works great, and David Small's driving is incredible. I hope it goes far. 9. Void. It's literally Promheta. 8. Promheta. I think it's the 12-pound robot with the most wins. It's always great, but definitely has some reliability issues now. And now it has an anti-big wheel setup, which should help it out a lot here. 7. Psycho. It's Jameson Go with an egg beater. So that's all I really need to say, but it also has some reliability issues recently. 6. Torrent. A seemingly outdated design that somehow still works incredibly well. Torrent delivers hard hits, and the driving is what makes it so good. 5. Minor Threat 5. It always goes far, and it has a very powerful spinner, while also being super compact and well driven. 4. Maximizer. A design that's been incredibly optimized, and most robots still don't have a reliable counter for it. It's coming off of a recent Golden Dumpster win too. 3. Slam Plan. The reigning world champion and maybe the hardest hitting 12-pound robot ever to enter NHRL. It's probably a surprise to most people that I don't have it at number 1, but I think the two above it are even more well set up to win, and robots like Adamant Barrage and Xenomorph could give it some trouble. 2. Full Court. Golden Brett winner from 2023, this design is just too difficult for most robots to fight, and it's nearly impossible to knock out. I think it must have some kind of configuration ready for Slam Plan that could be pretty effective. 1. Buzzkill. Maybe this is a surprise at the number 1 spot, but Buzzkill is designed well enough to fight pretty much any opponent, but the real reason it's my prediction to win the whole thing is that it's one of the best driven combat robots I've ever seen. Liam is great at circling his opponents, and I think that might give it an advantage over even a wide robot like Full Court. Alright, finally is the 3-pound class. This weight class in particular was really all great robots, and the robots lower on the list are mainly ones that I honestly forgot about until I looked at a picture again. That doesn't mean they're not good, I just put them lower because clearly they didn't make as much of an impression, and that makes the list easier for me. 28. Murphy's Law. It's a good little undercutter robot, but I forgot it qualified, and I don't think it's set up that well to beat many of these robots. 27. Bean Supreme Refried. I would absolutely love to see a simple control bot go far, and Bean Supreme Refried is a solid control bot, but I sadly don't think it'll fare very well against the best of the best. 26. Anubis. Another robot I momentarily forgot about. It's a very standard egg beater design, and it's pretty good, but didn't leave a huge impression. 25. Nitro Hornet. The last robot I forgot about, it's actually been around since the very first year of NHRL, and it's quite a good wide egg beater drum. However, it took a longer break from NHRL before its recent return, and it doesn't seem like one of the top contenders. 24. Mag. I think it competes pretty regularly on the West Coast, and it's a good robot, but it never seems to go as far as other robots, and mainly I think it has some reliability issues. 23. Project Liftoff. One of the most iconic NHRL robots, and I want it to do really well, but sadly I think it'll probably just get thrown around a lot, but it is nearly unkillable, so it definitely has a chance. 22. Radix. A very powerful undercutter that I think is out-undercuttered by a few robots, and probably isn't as great against all the dangerous verts with their wedges. 21. Counter Punch, or Count 3R Punch. It's actually a really good robot that I should probably put higher, but I keep thinking the design won't work as well with how high up the spinner is. I don't think it's as good against drum spinners and egg beaters either, which will probably be a problem. 20. Sad Octopus. Nice to see a less well-known robot doing so well. It's a very well-balanced bot while not being as amazing as some other robots. 19. Jackalope. A robot with fantastic driving and 2 weapons, but it doesn't have the damaging capabilities that other robots have due to its ant-weight spinner. It's actually the same motor that Moray uses. So it has to rely more on consistent control than knockouts. 18. Red Panda. The small spinner hits way harder than expected, and the driving is great, but geometry-wise, I think it just isn't favored in a lot of matchups. 17. Vapor Trail. Another 4-wheel drive vertical spinner. It's been working very well, but I refuse to put it too high after ending the Power of Friendship's run before they could qualify. 16. Pine Victus. Lynx, but not quite as dominant. 15. Comet. It looks like I put a lot of the four-wheel drive verts in the same part of the list, and Comet's another great one. 14. Elytra. I love my big vertical spinners with a lot of reach, and Elytra has quickly proven itself as a great one. The design is better than most at taking on the TPU control bots, and that air gap armor on the front is genius. 13. Surf Slicey. A super unique and effective weapon setup that always delivers hits, and it can also take one. 12. Basics. Much like Torrent, I keep thinking something about this design seems dated and like it would be less effective, but it's constantly dominant, and I think it'll be a challenge for any of these robots. 11. Strike Point. Some of the best forks at finals. Strike Point is a fantastic control bot, and the Hammer Saw is one of the best too, but I haven't seen it as much at NHRL against some of the best robots. 10. Caldera. It isn't always the most consistent thing in the world, but recently it's been doing extremely well. It's another all-time classic NHRL robot. 9. The Wall Part 2. It's pretty much a shuffling strike point, but it comes to NHRL a ton, and I've seen it prove its consistency at so many of these events. 8. Monkfish. This design is so hard for most robots to counter, and it's really durable, but I think the horizontal spinners might give it some sort of an issue. 7. Cold Snap. This is one of those horizontal spinners. It looks very durable and it hits really hard. 6. Repeater, the reigning world champion. Just one half of the robot could win a ton of fights, so 2 almost seems unfair. 5. Chainsaw Kitty. I think Chainsaw Kitty could be the downfall of some of these multi-bots, especially Repeater, because it hits harder than maybe any of the other robots on this list, and it's just so zippy and well driven. 4. Mako. The multi-bot version of Mako looks pretty unstoppable. I don't think we've seen Friendo take any real damage, and it's so good at pinning robots for the Mako side to come in and saw right into them. The only issue is that the Mako half is definitely less durable and doesn't have nearly as much of a chance if Friendo goes down. Mako is my favorite combat robot that currently competes, so I'm hoping it wins it all. 3. Silent Spring. It's Silent Spring. 2. Jelly Baby. One of only 2 non-damaging robots in this weight class, but it looks invincible, and it's so great at suffocating its opponent. Also, it's funny, when I had the idea for Outpost 31, it wasn't directly inspired by Jelly Baby, and it was right around the time when they won the Golden Dumpster, but it's very similar, and now that Jelly Baby's doing so well, we're seeing a bunch of robots clearly inspired by it. It's funny because they all look kind of like Outpost 31, but I know they're actually inspired by Jelly Baby. And the robot that I think will win the 3-pound Golden Brett is Slice Post 31. The level of control it gets is pathetic compared to pretty much every other robot in the field, but it can tap way more aggressively than everyone else. Yeah, I actually think it's going to be Impact. Not just so I can say that I fought a world champion, but because it delivers some massive hits and Lars's driving makes it so hard to get the upper hand no matter what kind of robot it's fighting. So that's it. Kazaa Light, Buzzkill, and Impact. Will I be right? Probably not really, but it will definitely be an entertaining event with so many of the best robots in the world. See what happens on Saturday, December 6th.